Welcome to Around Kitsap. This is BKAT show where we go in depth with one person talking about something that's important to our entire community. With me today is Dr. Dan Diamond. Dr. Diamond practices medicine through the doctor's clinic, but he's so much more than that. Dr. Diamond serves as director of the nation's first state-affiliated medical disaster response team. He has responded to a variety of international disasters. Most recently, he served as the medical director for the medical team's international first response team to Haiti. Before that, he was the triage director for the disaster that was Katrina in New Orleans. As an experienced family physician and award-winning educator, Dr. Diamond delivers practical information with creativity and skill. If you have ever visited him in his medical office, you totally understand this. He earned his medical degree from the University of Washington. He was born and raised in Tacoma. And then he went to do his internship residency, both of those, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now that's a character builder.
It is not too far from Chicago.
Not too far from Chicago. We call Milwaukee a suburb of Chicago.
Yeah, I believe that. It seems like it is.
Most recently, in 2010, the Kitsap North Mason chapter of the Red Cross awarded Dr. Diamond one of its Real Heroes Awards. Dr. Diamond and his wife Debbie have 3 kids, and look at him smile when
Absolutely.
I mention those kids.
Yeah.
And they reside in Silverdale, but they built their family on humor, love, and all traditions family. Welcome to the show, Dr. Diamond.
Thanks very much. It's a great thing to be here. I'm excited. I've got some great stories to share with you today.
And I know that. I don't know, it was probably about 6 months, 8 months ago, I heard Dr. Diamond speak to my Rotary Club, which is the East Bremerton Rotary, and as I walked into breakfast, I thought, oh, I wonder what this guy's going to talk about. It had something to do with medicine, but mostly about Dr. Diamond's experience in Haiti and Katrina and how professionals, first responders, react to those situations. So I have been talking to Dr. Diamond, wanting to get him on our program since then. So again, welcome. And first of all, let's talk about your medical practice just a little bit.
Sure.
You've been a medical doctor 1986?
That's right.
And in Kitsap since that time?
Absolutely. Yep. I interviewed at about 17 different places, and my first choice was the doctor's clinic. So I feel very fortunate to be able to come to my top choice. This is a wonderful community, and the doctor's clinic has been a great place to practice over the last almost 25 years now.
Yeah, that's fabulous. How did you get involved in disaster help, in helping in disaster situations?
Well, my wife and I had done quite a lot of international disaster relief work. We went to Thailand and worked in a refugee camp. And that's an interesting story. We left 5 days after we got married and lived out in the middle of nowhere in Thailand and took care of Hmong refugees for 3 months. So that was kind of the beginning of my passion for going beyond just a typical traditional practice and really reaching out to the world.
So is your wife a medical person? Is she a
Yes,
nurse?
she's a trauma nurse from Harborview.
Oh my.
It's the classical doctor-nurse
Yeah.
combination. It works out great.
So
I learned a lot from her, actually.
I bet.
She taught me how to give shots.
I bet.
Yeah.
So off you go to where? Thailand, you said?
Yeah,
After-
Thailand, worked in a refugee camp.
Did you call that a honeymoon?
No. and in retrospect, no, it wasn't a honeymoon. Was I crazy? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
It was difficult to do.
Yeah, so you've been doing this kind of work for 20-some years.
28.
28
Yeah.
years. Wow. So you and Debbie have children. You probably didn't do some disaster relief work when your babes were little.
No, we still did.
You still did. Did you take the children?
No, they get to stay home.
They stay home with Grandma
In fact,
and
it's
Grampy?
easier if you want to do something crazy like that to do it when the kids are little. Only one time did one of my sons dump a bucket of water over the babysitter's head. That was good. And then he tried to get out of the car when it was going, but Most of the time they behaved themselves when they were little. When you kind of get into high school, it's a little bit...
Yeah, then it's risky business.
Yeah, we didn't both go to the same disasters at that point. One stayed home for that disaster, and then the other one went out and did the international disaster.
So it's just been part of your fabric for forever.
Yeah.
Did Debbie introduce you to this kind of work?
No, it was the other way around.
You introduced her.
Yeah, it was pretty funny because she was runner-up Miss Idaho and had a curling iron and all that kind of stuff. And I said, hey, I want to go to Thailand, worked in a refugee camp. And that meant for 3 months living out of a single backpack.
I bet. No curling iron.
No, it was kind of a little bit of a shift in reality for her. But she has been phenomenal since. She actually led a team into Iraq after the war officially ended. I guess officially ended. Remember when they said it's all good now?
Yeah.
Well, she went into Erbil and helped the Kurdish nurses set up their intensive care unit and had an amazing experience. She was there for about 6 weeks.
Wow. And
they blew up the building next to their hospital. So it was not, that was a scary one for me being at home.
Yeah, I bet. Well, let's talk some more about the Christian Medical Response Team. And it's the first state-affiliated recognized team. And how did that get all started?
Well, this was back in, actually it goes a little bit before, back to 1991, and Youth for Christ had these big festivals that they would do, one in Washington, D.C. and one in L.A. every year. And in 91, it was so hot out, it was 104 degrees, and they had 25,000 junior high and high school kids on the grassy mall out in front of the Capitol, and 400 of them passed out. The fire department came in, hosed the crowd down, shut them down, and canceled the outside event. And Youth for Christ, frankly, looked like they weren't very well prepared, and they weren't. And my buddy Chris Clark headed that whole experience up. And he came back from that. He was the head of security, and he said, I'm never doing that again unless you're doing the medical. So I had 3 years to get ready, because it was an every 3-year event. And I called Dr. Kopis, that started the Medic One program in Seattle, and I said, hey, I got to do this big deal where I take care of 25,000 kids. Who is the best in the nation to go learn from how to set up a team like that? He said, well, that's easy. Glenn Raswick is a guy down at the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic in San Francisco that started rock medicine. And they do the Grateful Dead and all that sort of stuff. So I called him up and said, hey, my wife and I'd like to come down and see how you do things. And he told me later he thought that we would wear our little, white shirts and ties, and we would stand against the wall and go, ooh, ooh, because we were a Christian medical response team. But he didn't know what he was getting into, because we showed up and jumped right in, and the people were throwing up and having bad LSD trips and doing all that stuff. And we just jumped in and helped.
Right.
And at the end of it, he said, you guys are cool. When we come to Seattle to do the Grateful Dead, will you come and do it with us? I said, heck yeah, can I bring my team? Which was, he said, of course. Well, my team are all hand-picked based on their sense of humor. Anytime taking a team of people into a disaster, they have to have a sense of humor, because the rules change continuously, and we don't know what we're going to get into. So I have this hand-picked team with great sense of humor. We're at a Grateful Dead show, and Amy Schofield, that's one of the, works at Harrison Medical Center, was right out in front of the clinic, and this guy comes up and he goes, whoa, because he's just stoned. Christian Medical Response Team, whoa. Do you think Jesus ever got stoned? And bam, she says, oh, no, they tried to stone him, but he got away. But they crucified him at the end, but then he came back, and the guy walked away going, whoa. So, it's kind of through that we realized that maybe there's an opportunity for us here to be able to serve a bigger group than just doing Christian conferences. Those are easy. And frankly, I like hanging out with all kinds of different people. So for me, it was a great opportunity, and yet I couldn't get any malpractice coverage for my team, even though we were all volunteers. So I went to Phyllis Mann at the Department of Emergency Management and said, Phyllis, I have a team, but I don't have any insurance, and you have the state, but you don't have a team. How about if we work something out here? And she was very insightful and I think could see down the road that there may be a need for that sort of a thing. And now we have other mechanisms for that with the Medical Reserve Corps and that sort of stuff. But back then, nobody in the nation had done a state-affiliated team. They were all FEMA teams, the federal emergency teams, but we were the first state-affiliated team. And so we started doing concerts as our training exercises.
Cool.
And we had coverage through the state that way. So we did Smashing Pumpkins and Metallica, and we did 5 Grateful Dead shows. We were the lead medical team for End Fest that used to be here at Kitsap County.
Right.
And the hospital loved us for doing that, by the way.
I bet.
Because it saved the emergency room.
Yeah.
And then we were the lead team at Bumbershoot for, I think, 8 years. So we've been around. I've seen a lot of concerts and front and backstage, and that's it in a nutshell. But we're ready to be deployed, and our team has worked together under some pretty crazy situations by doing the concert. So it really is good preparation.
Excellent, excellent. So let's talk about your involvement at Katrina. Tell us how does that, you see it, of course, on TV, and then does somebody call you, or do you say, we're going?
Well, our team can get mobilized 2 different ways. We can either get mobilized as a state asset, or we can go as a non-governmental organization or an NGO. And in this case, for Katrina, we went as an NGO. And that, and I didn't tell you this, but my team's annual budget is $3,000 a year.
So it's all volunteer.
It's all volunteer.
Obviously.
Yeah.
$3,000.
$3,000 a year for buying stuff, scrounging stuff, and I don't buy brand new things very often. We get a lot of things donated, and we'll fix them up. So we're tasked with, if we have our big earthquake or whatever the disaster is here, we're set and ready to put up a field hospital. We can do it at a variety of different places that we've got pre-designated. But we're ready to go. We've got what we call the Bat Cave, where we have all of our supplies. We have 2 Bat Caves. Reliable Storage donates 2 storage units for us. They've been very supportive. But,
excellent, excellent. So Katrina happens.
Yes, Katrina happens. And we were packed and ready to go, and we couldn't go because you can't just go into a disaster setting and show up and start working. It doesn't work that way. You have to have state licensure. And we're not licensed in Louisiana.
Right.
We don't have reciprocity between Washington State and Louisiana.
Okay.
So it took about 5 days for them to work that out before we could get in. And then we partnered with Medical Teams International out of Portland. And that's who we, since then, have done all of our partnering has been with them and will be, I think, forever. We've got a great relationship with them.
Because they would be the ones sanctioned all over the world?
No, it's not a matter of licensure, it's a matter of connections. And that's the difficult thing about disaster is when you just show up, and my passion is being on the very first teams in. And that means there's no electricity, there's no power, there's no communications, there's no roads, there's nothing except a bunch of people running around going, what am I going to do? And in that situation, it really helps to have a partner that's got a huge network. So we had connections in Louisiana that helped pave the road for us. And then when we went into Haiti, Medical Teams International had contacts down there, and we worked exclusively through those contacts. The people on the ground making sure that we had a place to get set up and start working. So it really was a matter of waiting until the licensure could come through, and then looking at finding the right place to work. So it took us about 5 days to get in. So I, like you, spent a good amount of time glued to my television for those first few days, jumping up and down, pitching a fit, saying, I'm all packed and ready to go, and I can't get
I want to go help. I want to go help. So when you got to New Orleans, you were in the Superdome.
No, when we first got in, we went into Baton Rouge, and we were working at a performing arts coliseum up there at one of the shelters.
And people were being sent there.
And everybody was thinking, these guys are so cool because they're really sacrificing and going in there. Well, we're in a nice performing arts center. You know, like the mirrors with the lights all the way around the outside, and air-conditioned building and everything. We weren't suffering. And then about 6-8 hours later, we got a phone call and said, hey, can you split your team in half and bring half into the city? And we went to the convention center.
The convention center.
Yeah, there were two main areas, the Superdome and the convention center. The Superdome was kind of where everybody went at the beginning, and then they evacuated all those people. And
when the toilets started overflowing. And
oh, it was terrible.
It was nasty.
Yeah. Well, there was not good things that happened at the convention center as well.
I bet. Was it as bad as it looked on TV?
It was probably worse than what it looked like on TV, because although we have 3D TVs now, we don't have scratch and sniff TVs. So everybody that stayed home missed out because you couldn't smell the intense, horrible smells that were down there. As when we were driving in, we came in the middle of the night. We had to go past two guard points, checkpoints that were being manned by the state police with sawed-off shotguns and assault rifles. And then once we passed through that, it was really like time was suspended. It was bizarre. So the rules were gone. I don't know if you've ever, maybe it's just a guy thing where we're sitting around thinking, I wonder what life would be like if everybody in the world died but 20 of my friends and me. We could go do anything we wanted to. We want to go down to get a new car. You go get a new car. It's just down there. You break the window, take the keys. You know, I mean, it's just, maybe that's just a guy. You probably never done that.
I never ever have thought of that.
Well, once we got past the second checkpoint, you could drive as fast as you wanted to down either side of the freeway. And you could go off the on-ramps and on the off-ramps. It was really bizarre, and there was no power. So I couldn't see where we were going. At one point we got lost. And so I'm not embarrassed, believe it or not, to ask for directions. And we took a ramp off, and there's a 4x4. And so I thought, well, I'll go ask those guys. So I run back and I said, hey, you know, I'm Dan Diamond, and we're trying to get down to the convention center, and we're lost. Can you give us some help? And the guy says, well, we're from search and rescue, and we're lost. Thought, well, there isn't any hope. And search and rescue's lost. It's time to take a break. Time to take a break. So we got down there that night and set up in the middle of the night, and it was the most bizarre experience of my life. It was really bizarre. But I was surprised. I was, what surprised me was not how bizarre it was, although I did, you know, keep looking over my shoulder waiting for Arnold Schwarzenegger to appear out of nowhere.
With his Gatling gun
Yeah.
and his whole,
Exactly.
I'm back.
Yeah. What surprised me, and what I didn't see a lot of media, was that there was a group of people that had lost everything, but they continued to thrive. And that really challenged me. That's what really got me thinking when I came back afterwards, you know, trying to figure out what did I just experience over the last couple of weeks. It was that group of people that refused to be shut down and to become victims that challenged me the most about how I live my life. It wasn't the people that lost everything and they were dependent, you know, like I remember seeing this woman holding the hand of her child and yelling at the CNN reporter, when is George Bush going to bring me my food?
Exactly.
That didn't challenge me. That made me think, he's probably not. He's not going to bring me any food.
George isn't coming.
Yeah, it's not coming.
Yeah.
He can't. It's too big of a disaster.
Right. Well, let's hold that thought and take a break, and we're going to talk about how everyday folks are resilient in the face of disasters and how Dr. Diamond relates to his team. So stay with us. We'll be right back. You can reach Dr. Diamond at www.powerdime.com or personally at dandiamond@powerdime.com. Welcome back to Around Kitsap. Dr. Dan Diamond is with me, and Dr. Diamond sharing lots of information on his work around our country and nationally in disasters. And we just heard some stories about Katrina, and I know Haiti would have the same kind of stories, if not more. But Dr. Diamond, what have you learned from all this? What have you learned personally,
Yeah,
as a regular Joe and as a doctor, what have these experiences taught you?
I really started thinking a lot when I came home, trying to figure out what it was about those people that were resilient. And so I started doing a lot of reading and thinking and talking to other people to try to put this together in a way that I could communicate it, because I was fascinated by these people that seemed indestructible. And gosh, if there's anything worthwhile learning in a disaster like that, it's how to do that, because I really would like to be like that if I ever get in a disaster myself.
Is it I'm not having a pity party, I'm going forward, I'm going to get help, I'm going to take care of myself, I'm going to take care of my loved ones? Is that
that's part of it. Back years ago, a guy named Julian Rotter did some research on the difference between victims and survivors, and victims have what he called an external locus of control. So they feel like all the power is external to them and things happen to them. So on a victim's license, a bumper sticker, they might put something like, "Stuff happens." Stuff happens. And then in fine print, "To me." And then in finer print, "All the time." And there's really nothing they can do about it because the power is external. And the people that are thrivers in that situation have an internal locus of control. They're like the psychiatrist Viktor Frankl that was captured by the Germans and then spent 7 years in concentration camps. And his attitude was that no matter what they do, they can never take away my right to choose how I'm going to respond. So no matter what happens externally, those people maintain this internal locus of control. So, that makes good sense. And that explained part of it, but it didn't explain the whole thing. There was still something about that woman and her child, where she's yelling at the camera, "When's George Bush going to bring me my food?" that was bothering me. Yes, she had an external locus of control, so stuff was happening to her. But there was more to it, and the rest of the part, and this took me, I would guess, probably a year of reading and thinking and chewing on it and walking around and thinking about it some more and talking to people. There are some people out there that are takers of life, and there are some people that are givers of life. There's some people you spend 5 minutes with them, and they've sucked all the life out of you, and you kind of go, And we all come across those
They're
kinds of
sucking
people.
your joy. That's my term. You are sucking my joy.
Just pull it out.
Yeah.
But then there's some people you spend a couple minutes with them and you think, "Oh, I don't know. I just feel so much better. I was having kind of a bad day." So there's givers and takers. And I thought, well, what would happen if you crossed that in a 4-quadrant diagram? So you'd have a powerless taker would become a victim. And that really sums it up for me with this woman and her kid. She not only was saying, "When is George Bush going to bring me my food?" but she was also not saying, "When is George Bush going to bring my daughter some food?" Because she was not a giver. She was a taker, and it was all about her. Now, you can also have an empowered taker, and those are the exploiters. And I've got stories for each one of these quadrants. One of my favorite little short stories, because we don't have a whole lot of time, we could probably talk for a whole day.
I know.
Remember the guys that were stealing television sets?
Yes, looting and
out of Walmart. They had these huge big screen TVs.
Yeah, but there's no power.
Yeah, now you're smart. Boom, you figure that out. I didn't figure that out until years later. I'm going. One day I went. They didn't have any electricity. So what do? They get their TVs out, put them in the middle of the street, invite the neighbors over, because they don't even have a house. They just say, "Dude, want to come over and watch some big screen TV with me?" And they all go, "Well, it's not turned on." "Well, I know, I don't have any electricity." "Well, nice TV." Exploiters might kind of win in the short run, but they don't win in the long run. And then if you had powerless givers, those are the bystanders. They didn't even show up. They weren't there. They were the people that would say, "Oh gosh, I wish there was something I could do." But there's nothing what could I do? There's not everybody can go to these disasters, but everybody can support. You can jump on the web and go to Medical Teams International's website and at least give money if you can't get away. But there are people that are just cozy. And it was the empowered givers that blew me away. And one of them was, it's a funny story, it was when we got down there, we didn't have quite enough staff because we had to split our team.
Right.
So I got some local people, some paramedics and that sort of stuff, and then we added some doctors and nurses from Nashville, and we had a fabulous team. But about 6 hours into this, I'm working alongside this woman, and she's all dressed in her, blue pants and blue shirt, and it says New Orleans Emergency Medical Services. And on the back of her shirt says paramedic in big letters that even I could read. So I think, great, you're a paramedic. I would like you to do this and work over here, and I'm telling her what to do, and everybody kind of doing my thing. About 6 hours into this, I realized that she's the smartest paramedic I've ever worked with in my whole life. So I'm thinking, I wonder if she's really a paramedic. So I asked one of the other local guys, hey, is Juliet a paramedic? And he says, oh no, man. She's the director of emergency medical services for the entire city of New Orleans. And I'm going, oh. Running the tape back, what did I say to her, So I go over to her and I said, Juliet, I am so sorry. I had no idea that you were the director of EMS for New Orleans, and I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to assign you to a task and everything. I work for you, and I'm in your place, and I'm a guest, and please forgive me. And if you want, we will stand down. You're welcome to all of our stuff, whatever you want me to do. I'm just sorry. I feel like I got egg all over my face. And she looks at me and she says, you have no clue. Because for the last 4 or 5 days, we've been working 18, 20-hour days while people have been shooting at us that we're trying to rescue. And we begged God that you would come. Don't you dare stand down. You run this thing and I don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
And when I have time,
I'll do what I'm told.
I'll come and work under you. It'd be so great. I said, okay, I'm happy to do that. But being from Tacoma, I have to put my foot in my mouth. So I said, well, I do have a question for you. She said, sure, what's that? I said, well, what's with the shirt? Why does it say paramedic on it? And I'll never forget her answer. You know what she said? She said, it's the only shirt I own. In fact, I had 2 houses and I lost both my homes. And this is all I have left. I lost everything. I just have these clothes and I've been in them for 5 days. I was speechless. Mm-hmm. There I was in the presence of a hero that had lost everything but still stayed empowered and was a giver, given to everybody else. So that's what I want to be like when I grow up.
Very cool story. Very cool. We need to wrap up. So I want to thank you because I think you're going to have to come back because we can keep going and going and going. Thank you so much for not only what you do in Kitsap, taking care of people through the doctor's clinic, but what you're doing in the whole world. And I know it's joy for you because I can see you beaming about it, but you are an inspiration and one of those really good people, and I thank you so much for coming in and taking the time with us today.
Thanks for giving me the chance to share my stories. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us around Kitsap. We'll see you next time.